колеги, рівно 15:00 по Україні. Дозвольте вас привітати з сьогоднішнім заходом. Від Центру україно-європейського наукового співробітництва проводимо наше чергове науково-педагогічне стажування спільно з нашими партнерами з Республіки Польща, Київським університетом. Сьогодні у нас будуть працювати з нами і викладати дві лекції співробітники Київського університету, зокрема Marcin Miziołek, сертифікований тренер та наставник. Він буде спілкуватися з вами на тему коучинг у світі як інструмент мотивації. Після нього виступить керівник міжнародного відділу Київського університету, досвідчений і відомий у Польщі дослідник освіти дорослих та дистанційної освіти, з яким Центр україно-європейського співробітництва працює вже більше ніж 4 роки, Joanna Skiba. Сьогоднішня тема її лекції – освіта як джерело життєвого розвитку. Модеруватиму захід, з вашого дозволу, я, директор Центру україно-європейського співробітництва, доктор юридичних наук, професор Віхляєв Михайло. Отже, переходимо безпосередньо до нашої роботи. Вже 15:01 по Україні, 14:01 по Польщі, тому можемо розпочати. Думаю, що інші учасники потрошки будуть приєднуватись. Marcin, please speak. We don't hear you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for helping me out. First of all, thank you. Hello, everybody, and thank you for inviting me and having me here once again. To be honest, I am really in anticipation when I know that I will have a chance to give a lecture and share some ideas with you. Today, a subject which is very, very, very close to what I've been doing in my professional career, which is actually coaching in education. I would like, first of all, I would like to give you a little bit of a background, my background, because, let's say that some of you have already met me, but maybe not everybody know me. And I need to tell you that coaching is one of the things which I am interested in. And the second thing is actually education. My first, professional career was connected firstly with teaching. I'm also an English teacher, and this is, let's say, my first background. And then I started to look for something else, how to motivate students, what to do to encourage them, or actually to have them encouraged so that they encourage themselves how to educate better, how to develop in the ways that actually they want to develop, to learn how they want to learn. And I found coaching. So then I started to study coaching maybe 7 or 8 years ago, and my first adventure, it was the University of Cambridge. And then I studied it in Poland, in Warsaw. So actually I graduated two universities. And then I can hear somebody in the background. If you could mute this person, I would be delighted. Thank you very much. I hope that it wasn't because of my background education that somebody didn't want to listen to it, but let's move on. And then the combination of coaching and education. This is what I wanted to introduce, and this is what I want to share with you. I want to show you a tool which I created based on a tool that is easily accessible for everybody. So first of all, the tool, I'm trying to find it. Oh, the host disabled participant screen sharing. If we could ask the host to enable screen sharing, I would also appreciate that, if the host can hear us. Not for everybody, but if not, of course, I will manage without it, but it would be great if I could show you the tool which I have. Okay, now share the screen as well. So first of all, if you want to introduce coaching in education, or if you want to introduce coaching in your practice as a teacher, lecturer, it is key to listen. It is actually the most important thing, to listen, and to increase your skill of listening. One should ask open questions. This is a very important thing, to ask open questions. It is very common that we ask closed questions when you are only able to answer yes or no. Okay, I will be able to share it. Thank you very much. So I will share it in a sec. I will finish this thought. So if you ask open questions that actually your student can answer not only yes or no, but as a full statement. For example, what would you like to do? How do you like to learn? What are your strong points? What is the aim of your learning? What are your goals? It's not that you are guessing, it's that you are actually giving the student the chance to create his or her own goal, her or own path of education. And this is actually what coaching has brought to education, because we are used to a style of teaching that was, let's say, even more teacher-oriented. Teacher knew best, teacher knew all the answers, and teacher told us what we should know, what we should learn, what we should maybe sometimes even think. And, you know, we have answer key, and then we check whether it's okay or not. Coaching introduced something like, what do you think about it? What is your opinion? And if you ask these questions and you get answers, it is actually, maybe it doesn't seem like this already, but it actually is a new approach towards teaching learning experience. And it gives a student a situation in which actually he or she is being listened to, and he or she is creating what he wants to know, what he or she wants to learn. And this is the thing that we are actually thinking about, yes? Because the main focus should be about the goal of the learner. Of course, it's the best if we have, you know, common ground, and actually the teacher and the learner want to achieve the same thing. I told you about a tool, and now I will be able to share the screen. So I will show you a simple coaching tool. I hope you can see it. I can see Joanna. Joanna, if you can see my screen, please nod your head. Okay, thank you. So this is a very simple coaching tool, which is very useful. On a scale from 0 to 10, we are told to, let's say, evaluate our as business, career, finances. This is a very simple tool. On a scale from 0 to 10, how good do you think your finances are, your health is? And then, you know, the first thing that comes to your head, you should, let's say, draw a line and then connect all the dots together. For example, business career 8, finances 7, health maybe 3, family and friends 5, and then the one which is actually which scores the lowest should draw our attention. Then we focus on this. If we, for example, have fun and recreation 3 and family and friends 3, and the rest is like 5 or 7, it opens up a conversation. Why is it that low with fun and recreation? Why is it that low with family and friends? And then the coach, teacher coach, can first, in this case, a coach, what can you do to improve your health? What can you do to improve, of course, the one which is the lowest, yes? And then you improve what you have, where you are, and you are able to develop yourself. And actually, you know, there are no, I don't believe that there are two same people in the world. You know, everybody is different, and everybody has led a different life with different life experiences, different emotions. That's why these wheels, it's a wheel of life, so they vary, they change, and we should approach them individually. So I saw how useful this tool is, and I decided to create something, let's say, using this tool to create something connected with education. And I think it was like 2015 when I came up with an idea. I will try to show you it now. Okay. Is it the one? Yes, I think it is. Okay. I came up with an idea of creating a wheel of English, so you can see the wheel of English. Let's say it is a simple copy-paste thing. But being an English teacher, I wanted to take the wheel and change all the segments so that they match what I'm teaching and what I want the students to analyze. So, of course, if we think about it, learning English, I put on in the segments speaking, so a student is able to judge how he feels. This is the most important, how he feels when it comes to his speaking abilities. Writing, the same, how good he is when it comes to writing. Listening, yes, so comprehension, how good is he with comprehending? Listening, of course, comprehension, yes. Vocabulary, how much vocabulary he knows. Of course, then I give some hints, like 1, when it comes to vocabulary, 1 is like 1,000 words, 5 is 5,000 words. So that's more or less. So 10 would be like 10,000 words. Grammar, how good his grammar is. Of course, how good he feels it is. So all the time it is taking information from the student. Sometimes I had a situation where when I was asked by students, you tell me. But actually, this is what I'm trying to avoid. Actually, coaching is trying to avoid being a ruler who, you know, rules and says and judges. You give a student a chance to judge himself to some extent, to actually think about it. Where I am, what I need to do, what I need to focus on. So then after 5-7 minutes, you've got a picture which actually depicts where the student is. Motivation, as you can see, this is one of the segments, motivation. When motivation is around 7, I'd say it's okay. When it's 8, okay, let's do it. When it's 9, 10, the student really has the fuel to move forward. If it is 5, 4, it could be a bit problematic because, for example, when it's 4, it seems like the student is less interested in education than he is interested in the education. Maybe he's forced. You know, I had the chance to have a language school as well. So if a student is forced by parents to learn a language, then probably motivation would be around 4 or 3. And then the first thing I told you about, open questions, come into action. What could be done? This is a question when this motivation is around 5, for example. What could be done to increase your motivation so that your motivation would increase? What could be done? It's an open question. The student has to decide. And then, for example, if the student says, I would like to see more short videos to increase my listening abilities. Provide more listening videos. Yeah, so this is, you know, when it comes to individual lessons, this is very easy, very quick, but it shows the student that you really are interested in this person. You really want the student to learn. Of course, when it comes to group lessons, you have to decide what the target of the group would be, what they want to do. This is about English language. Of course, if you change it into, I don't know, history, and then you put this period, this period, this period, yes, 18th century, 19th century, if somebody needs to do, you know, like a revision of material or whatever, then he will point where he feels the weakest, the strongest, and then we can build on that. The times which are now, you know, they tend to put the focus on the student. As I said, previously we had a teacher, and teachers always knew best. Now, if we want, of course, if we want to approach the student in a way that he feels safe, secure, being listened to, and feels well, coaching helps us to create an environment in which he or she feels well, and actually which is being created by the student, or together, both the student and the teacher. Does it require more time? I'd say yes, but not a lot. It is the most important, it is more efficient. This type of teaching and this type of learning, it is more efficient. So as you can see, if you have speaking 7, writing 6, listening 3, then vocabulary 7, grammar 8, openness. Openness means how open you are to try to speak, and how open you are, let's say, not having the fear of making a mistake. So openness 10 would mean, okay, if I make a mistake, I'm allowed to make mistakes. I can do it. I'm learning. This is perfect. But if somebody is on the other side of this scale, like 1 or 2, positive feedback is what this person needs. So coaching also gives positive feedback. Again, school many years ago didn't give positive feedback, or didn't give it to a big extent. The school didn't give it to a big extent, so that students really didn't know. Only the grades were a kind of a feedback. Yes, coaching also is providing more of a description. What you've done that was properly done, what you've achieved. And then on this basis, you can have a kind of a conversation. What more can you do? What more do you need? Again, an open question. How can you do it? Somebody can say, yeah, but I don't have time. So then you go like, you drill, you go further and further. What can you do to find time? What could be done so that you would actually have a little bit more time? If you cannot have more time, how much time can you actually devote to learning English this week or the following week or whatever? So this is actually what coaching in education, actually I'm trying to tell you what my experience is with this, what tools I've been using. This is as I said, a very simple tool, but it is a very efficient tool. There is also a tool where you are, when you ask 4 questions. If, for example, there is a block, somebody cannot or doesn't want to learn more, there are, also questions to be asked. The first question is, what will happen if you learn it? Then, of course, we usually have some positive thoughts on that. What will happen if you don't learn it? What won't happen if you learn it? So negation and now. And the second part is positive. And what won't happen if you don't learn it? This is also a coaching task. When you have what will happen if you do it, what will happen if you don't do it, what won't happen if you do it, and what won't happen if you don't do it. Like a con and con. So these are, as I said, simple tools, but one thing is listening about it. Try it. If you are teachers, if you are educators, just encourage yourself to try it. Because I can ask you a question. What will happen if you try it? What will happen if you don't try it? Of course, I can answer this question. What will happen if you don't try it? Nothing will change, maybe, or nothing will improve. We don't know if it actually is going to help or not. But I really encourage you to try to experiment a bit. If you have, I don't know, individual students, or if you are actually learning yourself, learning something. you can also use this tool, evaluate what you have done already, and ask yourself these questions. Then you will see, okay, I'm here, I need to focus more on that. And you will have the answers, not only you as educators or teachers, but only you as students as well. So this is like a short part of coaching in education, but from a very practical point of view. And I hope you enjoyed this, this part of the lecture, because I really have. So thank you for having me here once again, and I'll say goodbye.
Okay, thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you. Now it's my turn. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm really happy to be able to join your internships again and see some of the familiar faces, and I hope also to see some of the newcomers during this session. I have a topic of lifelong learning, which is very much related to education in general, and there are also many questions, and I think I'm going to ask you some open questions, trying to be more interactive with you, and as Marcin also asked some ideas at his final stage of presentation, and I think coaching is very much related and goes so close to pedagogical issues. So that I think the first question I would like to ask, which I leave open, or if you want to answer in a chat, then go ahead. The question is education only formal? That's the basic point of lifelong learning. So we should try to answer it. If education is only formal, given in institutions, in schools, or is education everywhere? Well, the lifelong learning has to recognize something. It has to recognize that we as humans have the natural drive to explore, to learn, to grow, develop, and change. And this encourages us to improve with time. It may improve our quality of life and also the value, the self-worth. And when we pay attention to different ideas and we have different goals which inspire us. I may say that we are, and I may put this notion at the beginning, we are all lifelong learners. So what does it really mean? We have our goals and interests outside the formal schooling, outside our jobs. This is the part that means to be human, that we have some natural curiosity, we are also natural learners. So we develop and grow thanks to our ability to learn and to discover. For example, in childhood, we learn to talk and we learn to ride a bike. As an adult, we learn how to use a smartphone, we learn how to cook a new dish. So there are many different ways of learning and somehow of interactions. So this is all everyday learning and lifelong learning. This may be done through socialization, this may be done through trial and error or self-initiated studies. But I think the base of satisfaction is our personal fulfillment and the development which goes to natural interests of our motivations, how deeply we are motivated to learn new things. And we should remember we learn for ourselves, not for someone else. There are many benefits of being open to education. As at the beginning, I would like to give you some points. The first point is renewed self-motivation. When we get stuck in a rut, doing things simply because we have to do them. It's like going to work or like cleaning the house. This may be the situation when we are we need to be put back in the driver's seat to have this as a reminder that we can really do things and be responsible for them in our lives. Point number 2 is recognition of personal interests and goals. We have to reignite what makes us tick, what makes us motivated, what reduces boredom, stress, and what makes our lives more interesting. It can open future opportunities if it's something which is rooted in our motivation. Point number 3 of the benefits is the improvement of other personal and professional skills. When we are busy learning a new skill, or when we acquire new knowledge, we are building many valuable skills that can help us in personal and professional lives. We utilize some other skills in order to learn something new. We learn how to, let's say, operate a computer, and it requires some problem solving, it requires creativity. As for the benefits, point number 4 is the improved self-confidence. We are becoming knowledgeable and skilled in something that can increase our self-confidence. It's for our personal and professional lives. Our personal lives, the confidence may stem from devoting time and effort and energy to something and giving us the sense of accomplishment. So these were the 4 points which stressed the benefits of being open to education. But this was focusing on education on more informal level. Going back to formal education in lifelong learning systems, we have something like organizational lifelong learning. Imagine that we are academic teachers, as most of us are. So we have this pressure of continuing on developing, getting a PhD, completing a course of studies, learning a new language. If we are employed at a company, the employer may be putting pressure on us to continue with some formal education credentials, to be able to get more recognition, to develop our talents. And the lifelong learning ability and our openness may be a very desired trait, or sometimes we don't really have any choice in working environment. The fast pace of today's economy shows that the employee development is very important in many companies. So this is the idea that employees should be engaged in constant personal development, in learning, in order to become more adaptable, more flexible for the organization, to stay competitive and relevant. My open question to you is, do we need to be so active about lifelong learning? What do you think, yes or no? Well, most people will learn something new at some point of their everyday life. We may learn from other people, we may learn from the internet, we may learn from reading the newspaper, watching television. And this is important for many reasons, personal, for family, and it's, well, it can be seen in many situations. I'm going to give you five steps that you can all follow, how to adopt lifelong learning in your lives. If you haven't made those decisions yet, maybe those 5 steps will help you how to see the clear patterns to follow. Step number 1, recognize your own personal interests and goals. So lifelong learning is about you. It's not about other people and not what they want. It may reflect on what you are passionate about and how you see, how you envision your own future. If you are progressing your career and this is your personal interest, there are some ways to participate in the self-directed learning, and you should accomplish this goal. Step number 2 is make a list of what you would like to learn and how to learn it, and what you would like to be able to do. And once you have identified what motivates you, you should explore it, and you should have some kind of goal to be achieved. If you're interested and passionate about history, then you may expand the knowledge of history of Europe. Or maybe your interest is so strong that you are going for a PhD as your dream goal. Step number 3 to be followed, identify how you would feel and how you would like to get involved and what are the resources available. So achieving those goals of education is to begin with figuring out how to get started in general. You should research and read about the goal and formulate how to start learning it. Step number 4, structure the learning goal into your life. Fitting a learning goal into our really busy lives as academic teachers and working in universities, in educational institutions, doesn't give us much time and space for anything else, but we need to. It's very often may lead to discouragement and quitting the learning initiative, but we should plan it. If we are starting a new language, let's say we may devote 1 hour to this. Do you think it's realistic? 1 hour every day? For me, not. I started learning Spanish at the beginning of September, and I devote about 15 minutes a day, which is my absolute maximum. So maybe 15 minutes a day is like a realistic step, and it may help me reach my goal. Step number 5 is make a commitment. Committing to our decisions and engaging in new learning initiative is our final and most important step. If we have realistic expectations and have self-motivation, we should commit to our decisions and avoid making excuses. Do you agree that making commitments is most important? Well, I leave this as an open question for any further discussion. Now some theory, because I started with some very practical things on lifelong learning, some theory. What really is like a definition of lifelong learning? This is the facilitation of learning, growing, and the development across our lifespan. It has been referred to as lifelong education, and is typically seen as a learning society or the knowledge society. The examples of lifelong learning include retraining adults for new jobs, new industries. It's informal and non-formal learning, leisure learning, activism, and continuing education. Lifelong learning is a concept embraced by many educators based on the belief that learning and growth will continue across the lifespan as a mark of adulthood. The concept of lifelong learning started about 4 decades ago. That was in the 1960s, 1970s. It was John Field who observed that the lifelong learning is more humanistic. Since 1990s, the lifelong learning has become increasingly based on economic needs. So the companies have seen the need to develop their employees and to encourage participation in many educational programs. Another important aspect, which is mentioned in many papers related to lifelong learning, is individualization. So this is one of the processes which occurs throughout our life cycle. It refers to the changing relationship between the self and the external, the outside world, throughout the life course. It begins with the infant, the baby, which gets knowledge of its separate existence in the world of animate and inanimate objects. And it is apparent in the tasks of the early adult transition, one of the principal tasks being to modify or terminate existing relationships with family and significant others, to reappraise and modify the self. Indeed, much of the developmental progress is in the terms of changing nature of relationships. In our midlife, like we are now, the relationships are reappraised, and it takes the form of a struggle between polarities. And this is also our struggle. The individualization process is also seen in educational process. How we learn at the beginning, our education at the beginning is mostly formal. Well, usually it's formal. And then when we grow and develop, it changes into more non-formal standards. Lifelong learning now in our decades is recognized by educators, by many governing bodies, many accreditation organizations. In Poland, there are many of them. And the certification boards, employers, and the general public. They check and develop important competences for people. Promoting lifelong learning must always be continuous, collaborative, must be self-directed, active. It must be everlasting, positive, and fulfilling. And it has to meet the challenge that this will require the changes in the way that teachers teach and learners learn. Teachers should be more facilitative. Maybe you have seen this in yourselves when you were adult learners studying, learning a new skill, learning a language, or gaining some computer skills. You were more skillful learners yourselves, and you could navigate through the processes of learning. You could navigate through the courses, and you could choose them if we are given the choice and we are more aware of where we are on the global educational market. Then I think it's easier to choose what is good for us, what is appropriate, how we should if we should devote more time to that. In Poland, universities are also the centers of lifelong learning, because we are seen as the element of the tertiary education, as the third step of formal education for those who want to complete MA, BA, or MA, or engineer levels of programs at academic institutions. But universities in Poland are also the centers offering language courses, computer courses, and they are very often open to public. And most of all, we have postgraduate studies. The postgraduate studies is the system, I don't know if you have it in Ukraine. The postgraduate studies last 2 terms, so usually 1 academic year, and they only focus on 1 special field, and they are more vocational than pedagogical or theoretical. The postgraduate studies are offered to those who have the BA graduation at least. So you need to have your BA to have any postgraduate course. But postgraduate courses are quite popular, and they are seen very powerful for those who want to change employment, who want to learn some new skills. So in Poland, the situation is that we, as universities, are offering quite a lot in terms of lifelong education. I have been searching for very up-to-date information to share with you today, and I found the Eurydice report. The Eurydice is the European Union organization which deals with employment and education. This is an agency in Brussels, and they just about 3 or 4 weeks ago, they have published a report which studies how adult learning and learning in general addresses the needs and what is the current situation in Europe. So it says that adult learning encompasses different types of provision, which are designed to address various education and training objectives. And as a result, the responsibility for adult learning is usually shared between multiple stakeholders. The stakeholders are the top level authorities, like the Ministry of Education, the employment agencies, social agencies, various national agencies, and also decision makers at lower levels, like regional councils or municipalities. There are there is a variety of different partners, like social partners, educational providers, or NGOs, and they also are players on the market of lifelong learning. The governance and policy frameworks can help ensure that the different stakeholders involved in adult learning coordinate the initiatives and approaches, which means that there should be an umbrella system which shows that standards are followed and what kind of standards are to be followed. Very often there are specific programs like academic curricula. All of our postgraduate studies have academic curricula as they are strictly vocational. These are patterns to be followed. If we don't have a structure, if we don't have a pattern to be followed and any kind of clear schedule or clear maybe certification or validation, which is also important to be stressed, then it doesn't work. It's like, I think, with your internships, they are part of validation in the academic system in your country, and they are clear for you, and that they are clear in the structure of your country and of the receiver and of the speakers. And I think it's also the same in Poland. In most European countries, we have one or more intersectoral coordinating body, and they are related to adult learning. They are the governing mechanisms. They can facilitate horizontal, vertical programs, and they design and implement any kind of policy and measure. And more specifically, around half of the countries reported in Eurydice report have some intersectoral coordinating body, and they focus specifically on the design and implementation of adult learning policies. As from my own experience, as I also work as the Erasmus coordinator at our university in Wrocław, I can tell you that we also run quite a lot of adult lifelong learning programs within Erasmus, as one of the sectors is called adult education. And in the past, we had, it was like 5 years ago, we had a very successful project for our open university. So people like 60 plus who joined our non-formal programs. And this year we are still running one of the Erasmus projects, and I'm also coordinating it. It's also geared for the Open University members, and they have the possibility to travel to places like Croatia, Cyprus, Portugal, Spain, the Czech Republic, and they attend language courses or they attend development courses. This is more non-formal type of education, but it is very popular in Poland now because participants don't pay, because it's supported completely, and it's under an umbrella organization of Erasmus Plus now. And it is really successful because I can see how people change when they join the project, and they are really happy to receive a validation of the work, like the certificates, and also they enjoy the time spent together with colleagues in a very nice location. So that I raised one issue. I raised the issue of support. Do you think that adult education can exist without financial support? This is also one of my open questions to you. Well, I think not, because we have to pay for courses, we have to pay for attending the schemes, for certificates, for our qualifications. And of course, most of us just pay with our own money because we do commercial things and we have no other way out of this. But if there are options like under European Union projects or any other projects like NGO organizations, I think it's easier. It's easier to find a solution like get the qualification upgrading and get the desired certificate, but also receive some financial support if it is possible. Well, alongside the learners, the employers also create some forms of education and training opportunities. So there are many centers within companies, within organizations of employers who offer some kind of vocational training for people employed in the agencies or companies. One of the topics which I discussed already during the internships, but that was some months ago, was the COVID-19 pandemic and its influence on learning and education. That was quite a big lecture and presentation. I think we should also briefly mention this issue as distance learning and COVID-19 strictly go together because the major health crisis that we have faced since March 2020 caused all the sectors of education to be put under some unprecedented pressure, as we need to become more open up to distance learning. And in early 2020, you know, from your own experience, we had just a few days, really, not weeks, but days to make decisions on the programs. Are we working on Zoom? Are we working on Teams? Are we using I don't know, Messenger? But I think looking at my daughters at school at that time, it was a complete mess at the beginning as they used everything. Then it got more systematical. So our Ministry of Education introduced basic patterns to be followed and the requirements, but the beginning was complete mess and complete chaos. All the stakeholders at all the levels of education globally, and as everyone was faced with and touched by that, had to develop and implement very innovative and creative solutions, how to ensure that education and training can continue to function. And like other sectors of education and training, the adult learning sector responded with a range of measures that targeted providers and learners. I think our situation right now, as we are all sitting in our, I don't know, homes or offices, but we are all in different locations, that it allows to meet kind of face-to-face and kind of have this interactive communication at some stage, as this is the only way that we can do it. Well, I think that the Zoom is one of the best ways to communicate in distant learning method, and I think it has become very successful and has been used globally since March 2020. There are many awareness-raising activities across Europe. As among adults, we need to pursue some key priorities. And there is a European agenda of implementation at national and regional levels. This is called the Working Group on Adult Learning. This was mentioned in the Juridis report on the structures of lifelong learning. The objectives of those groups have been focusing on promotion of cooperation. They shared examples of good practice. They raised awareness of adult learning, and they included dissemination information. If you want to read more and have more details on that, please I can also send you the link on the juridic's report related to education and its present situation in Europe right now. What we really need in lifelong learning is the guidance, as without guidance we are lost. Guidance is usually the shared responsibility of the ministries, of the governing bodies at national level or regional levels. This can involve participations of some national councils or some forums of lifelong guidance, which may help ensure that there is cooperation and coordination of measures, of requirements and curricula. Guidance services cover the range of activities like information giving, counseling, competence assessment, support, teaching, teaching of decision makers, and career management skills. All of these can be provided in schools, in training centers, in employment agencies, in the workplace, and of course, in universities where we are all work and we are all involved with. I would like to ask you now the final question. Are you planning to get involved in some form of lifelong learning now? I hope so, that you will find time and some energy and motivation, first of all, to learn. And also what Marcin Miziołek said in his presentation, that you will be, as he stressed, motivation to be so important that you will be motivated strongly to become aware adult learners. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Joanna, for the lecture. Шановні учасники, хочу щиро вам подякувати за участь у сьогоднішньому заході, за ваш інтерес до діяльності Центру україно-європейського співробітництва. Надзвичайно приємно, що така велика кількість учасників цікавиться заходами, які проводить Центр україно-європейського співробітництва. Хочу всіх проінформувати, що у нас стажування триває до середини жовтня, і наприкінці жовтня ви всі без виключення отримаєте сертифікати про участь у стажуванні та збірники тест з вашими доповідями. Всім щиро дякуємо та бажаємо успіхів під час проходження усіх процедур, пов'язаних з отриманням ваших вчених звань доцента, професора або старшого дослідника. Щиро дякуємо, гарного навчального року. До побачення.
Дякую.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Побачення.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
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 Дякую.